Well, hi there, and welcome to Side Hustle Hero, the show that is laser focused on inspiring you to take action to start or to scale your side hustle income streams. I'm your host, Joan. If you've ever searched online for side hustles, you probably noticed two things pretty quickly. There are a lot of ideas out there, and often they sound very unrealistic. They all promise 6 figures, passive income, and a lifestyle that requires working about 12 minutes a week. In this episode, we're not doing that. Instead, I'm sharing 10 real remote side hustles that you can run from home. The kind that fit into an actual life, not the kind that sounds good on paper or looks good on Instagram. These are side hustles that people are genuinely doing. Many of them while holding down full-time jobs, raising families, or juggling other responsibilities. Some of these let you teach. Many of them let you simply do the work. And all of them are ways to make money from home using skills, interests, or experience that you may already have. These 10 side hustles are in no particular order. I simply wanted to build out an episode that provides you exposure to hearing what's possible, understanding how each one works, and noticing which ideas feel like a natural fit for you. Throughout the episode, I'll also point you to conversations that I've had with guests who have actually built these kinds of income streams. Now, here are 10 real remote side hustles to make money from home. If you're someone who loves your local community, local shops, local makers, local stores, a neighborhood or community-based subscription box can be a surprisingly strong side hustle that you can run from home. Instead of creating a product-themed box, like a box with all spa ingredients or all books, and then competing online with massive brands and influencers and Amazon, this model is built around something much harder to copy: community. The idea is pretty straightforward. You curate a monthly or quarterly subscription box filled with products from local businesses, things like non-perishable food items, candles, skincare, stationery, coffee, or small gifts, and sell it to people who live in that area or feel connected to it, like people who've moved away but still feel an emotional attachment to the place. You're not just selling what's in the box, you're selling discovery and local pride, and the ease of supporting businesses people already care about. Most community boxes are priced somewhere in the $40 to $75 per box range, depending on what's included. Your profit comes from the difference between what subscribers pay and what it costs you to source the items. Local businesses often provide products at wholesale pricing or provide sample-sized versions in exchange for exposure. Some may also pay a small sponsorship fee to be featured. They're included as a featured business or highlighted in insert or email. Over time, that sponsorship revenue alone can cover a large portion of your box costs. Back in episode 26, I interviewed Anna Cook in a segment called Subscription Box Service, From Idea to Launch. She shares how she monetized her travel blog using 5 different income streams, with a community-based subscription box being one of them. If you want to jump straight to that part, it starts at timestamp 1903. To boost box income, you could also offer seasonal or holiday boxes at higher price points, limited edition boxes tied to events or themes, and you could offer local pickup instead of shipping, which protects margins. Recently, I was a subscriber to a local organization that sourced seafood from small-scale independent fishing families. At times, the pickup spot was a local craft brewery. I ended up discovering a brewery I didn't know existed and perused the menu while staff went to the back to fetch my order. A win-win there, plus no shipping cost for me. From a startup perspective, this can be run from home and with very low upfront cost. You can validate demand before spending real money by posting in neighborhood Facebook groups, community newsletters, or local Instagram pages and simply asking, would you buy a subscription box featuring products from local businesses here? And ask, how often? How often would you buy one? Once you see interest, you can pre-sell the first box, collect payments, and only assemble once you know there are buyers. On the tech side, something like Shopify works well because there's no long-term commitment. It's month to month, which means you're testing an idea, not locking yourself into a business forever. If you want to dig deeper, I'll include a link in the show notes to a helpful blog post from Cratejoy called How to Start a Subscription Box While Having a Full-Time Job. They're a marketplace for subscription box creators and buyers. Even if you never use their platform, it'll be a further idea generator for you. I'll drop a link to the conversation with Anna Cook, too. Our next side hustle is home-based baking or specialty food products, often referred to as a cottage food business. This could be a strong option if you already enjoy baking or making food items, and people regularly tell you, you should sell this. People would love it. You're not opening a cafe or a restaurant. You're producing specific food products from your home kitchen, providing your local laws allow it. That's something to check early so that you understand the requirements. Some jurisdictions, for example, dictate that if you're just selling in farmers markets, you can produce food items at home. But once you get into selling wholesale to commercial businesses, then you need an approved kitchen. So check out the regulations where you live. Depending on your market, you might offer custom cakes, cookies, or breads, or products made in small batches like bottled sauces, or, as in the case of Liz Burchard, tortilla chips. She makes and sells her Tutu's tortilla chips out of her home kitchen. And she's grown her brand into 70 stores and over $250,000 in revenue, all while working full-time in a dental office. I sat down with her and she told us how she did it in episode 145. What matters most in this type of side hustle is focus. People tend to gain traction faster when they're known for one thing rather than trying to offer everything. Another great example of this is Helen MacArthur, who I interviewed in episode 57 in a segment called Worth the Risk, The Crazy Cookie House. Helen didn't try to be a general baker. She honed in on one product, cookies, and built a very recognizable brand around it from her home by responding to local demand. I've dropped a link to the episode website page because you'll want to check out the photos showing the quirkiest roadside cookie shack you've ever seen, as well as shots of her cookies, which are clearly one of a kind. And not every home-based food business stays small. In episode 67, I spoke with Melissa Mills, who shared how she created her line of cashew dips that look and taste like real cream cheese, only better. I recently touched base with her again, and this business that she started with a bicycle, she couldn't afford a car, a blender, and $500 is now pulling in mid-seven figures annually. Marketing for this side hustle is usually very local and relationship driven, so sales often come from social media, neighborhood groups, schools, offices, and word of mouth, as well as surprise pop-ups. In the case of Melissa, though, and her cashew dips, they started selling at weekly farmers markets, and they still do, despite her product now being sold in national food store chains across the country. The upside of this side hustle is control. You decide how many orders you take, when to produce, and how much time to dedicate, which makes it workable alongside a full-time job. At the same time, though, once you build a loyal following, running out of product or disappearing for a few weeks without a plan can quickly erode trust and repeat business. So consistency matters. Now we leave the kitchen and turn to our computers for a home-based business side hustle called copywriting, which is specifically about writing words that sell. It's writing emails, sales pages, landing pages, ads, website copy, and product descriptions, all designed to prompt action. What makes this especially workable as a side hustle from home is that businesses actively need this skill because it ties directly to revenue. You don't need a journalism degree or years of experience to start. What you do need is an understanding of how people make decisions, how offers are positioned, and how to write in a way that makes it clear what's being offered and why it matters. This is a skill that can be learned, but it does require training and practice. A great example of this is Nikki Krausick, who I interviewed in episode 86 in a segment called Write Your Way to $2,000 a Month. Nikki explains that copywriting can be broken down into very specific learnable skills. She's also very clear that beginners don't need to niche down or box themselves in too early. Instead, she encourages people to build experience across different types of copy and projects, allowing clarity and direction to emerge as they go. From a money standpoint, copywriting is typically priced per project rather than per hour. That might look like a flat fee for a website rewrite, a set rate for an email sequence, or, and often the best option for cash flow, a monthly retainer for ongoing copy needs. The flexibility of when you do the work, while still respecting client deadlines, makes this an attractive side hustle. People land early clients simply by having conversations, reaching out directly, or letting their network know what they're offering. And you can do the work from just about anywhere. You should have a natural affinity for writing. It should be something that you like to do. If your friends are always saying, "Oh my gosh, you're such a great writer," or as Nikki says, if people are asking, "Hey, can you take a look at my cover letter?" or "Can you review this email before I send it to my boss?" there's a good chance that you'd be well suited to copywriting. If you've ever noticed that people keep asking you how you do something, whether that's in your work, a side project, or an area where you've built real experience, online course creation may be worth considering. At its core, this is about packaging what you already know into a digital product that helps someone solve a specific problem. Instead of trading your time for money, you're turning experience and systems or a process that you've learned into something people can work through on their own schedule. One of the most common misconceptions about online courses is that you need to teach everything that you know. In practice, courses that gain traction tend to focus on helping someone move from one clear point to another, from overwhelmed to confident, or from stuck to making progress. People aren't paying for length or complexity, they're paying for clarity and direction. Dan Henry and I unpacked this more fully in episode 166, How to Make Your Online Course Sell, where the emphasis is on starting with a real pain point. When you can clearly articulate the problem your course solves, everything else becomes easier. What lessons to include, how to structure the content, and how to talk about it when you share it with others. Dan's core insight is that courses that sell solve real problems, urgent, meaningful problems. Students aren't buying videos, they're buying a solution to something pressing, a problem that keeps them up at night. That could mean helping someone get from zero to first sale, fix a recurring business problem, or learning a high-demand skill. If you design your course around solving a real pain, you increase your chances of success. From a practical standpoint, this is a very home-friendly side hustle. Courses are created and delivered digitally, so once the content is recorded and organized, it can be sold repeatedly without you showing up in real time for every customer. That's one of the reasons this model works well alongside a full-time job. The work is front-loaded, and it is a lot of work to put out a quality course. That said, one of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming that once the course is finished, the hard part's over. In reality, once the course is done, the real work of the next phase begins. Courses don't sell themselves. Your promotion of it matters. This doesn't mean constant hard selling, but it does mean visibility. Whether that's through a podcast, an email list, social media, or conversations with people who already trust you, selling the course is an ongoing process, not a one-time launch. So revenues really vary widely. Some creators barely ever make a sale. Some sell a handful of courses each month as side income, while others grow significantly over time, earning six figures and up. That only tends to happen after the course is refined and actively promoted. Production costs can be relatively low, especially compared to physical products, but they're not zero. At a minimum, you'll need basic recording equipment, a decent microphone, a webcam or phone, and simple lighting. If you can't or don't want to DIY your audio and video editing, then that'll be an added cost. And you'll need a place to host your course. Platforms like Thinkific and Teachable currently charge about $50 to $90 a month for a basic plan. It's fun to be able to create the course from home, updated over time as you learn what students struggle with the most, and decide how actively you want to promote it based on your schedule, your goals, and your budget. And if you already have an audience, even a small one, you're off to a good start. Maybe instead of teaching, you actually prefer to do. If that's you, audio or editing services can be a very solid home-based side hustle, especially as more people create podcasts, online courses, YouTube videos, and business content. But what catches a lot of people off guard is how time-consuming editing can be, especially once content is being produced consistently. Recording is one thing. Turning that raw file into something polished, listenable, and ready to publish is quite another. A lot of creators don't love the technical side. Trimming content, cleaning up audio, removing filler words, adding music, captions, or basic visuals. They want to hit record, hand the files off, and get back to the work that they enjoy. If you like working behind the scenes and making things sound better or look better, this might be a natural fit. Now, a quick word of caution, though, and this comes from someone who is often the client for audio and video editing. Don't assume that you can just drop an audio or video file into a program, let AI handle it, and call that editing. We're not there yet. Between you and me, I have a long-standing love-hate relationship with a platform called Descript, which handles both audio and video editing. There are things it does incredibly well. I can be interviewing a guest whose audio sounds hollow or tinny, and with one click, using something called Studio Sound, it suddenly sounds like they're recording in a professional studio. Same thing with removing filler words, ums and ahs. They can be often cleaned up with a single click. But the real value isn't the button. It's knowing when to use those tools, when not to, and how to adjust the result afterward. Good editing still requires judgments. There's a lot of nuance and depth to these platforms, and the editors who stand out are the ones who understand how to use the technology thoughtfully, not just rely on automation. That understanding is what actually makes you valuable to a client. From a business standpoint, audio and video editing is typically priced per episode, per video, or per project. Many editors work with podcasters who send one episode a week, which is nice for recurring income, or with course creators and business owners who have ongoing content needs. It's very home-friendly because editing can be done on your own schedule, which makes it easier to fit around a full-time job, as long as you're clear about deadlines and turnaround times. And once people start creating courses and podcasts or regular video content like we've talked about in the last side hustle, they often need help with editing. That means you're rarely convincing someone they need the service. Many already know that they do. If you take on clients, consistency matters, as I mentioned earlier with the other side hustles. Missed deadlines or uneven quality will cost your repeat business quickly. In this space, being dependable and producing a quality final product are the utmost importance for repeat business and to build a business. Many editors find clients through referrals, direct outreach, online communities, or simply letting people in their network know what they offer. You don't need tons of clients. What you do need is a small number of good fit clients who stick around. If you're someone who doesn't want to deal with inventory or shipping, but you do have a sense for design, structure, or useful formats, selling printables could be a side hustle that fits. Printables are digital products: planners, checklists, worksheets, templates, journals, organizers, party printables. Once you design them and set them up as a digital download, they can sell over and over. No physical inventory, no shipping, no packaging. I explore this model in the episode From Idea to $100,000, How to Sell Printables on Etsy and Shopify, where my guest Becky Beach shows how starting with just one product on a platform like Etsy can turn into a full-blown six-figure digital business. What makes printables attractive is how lean the model is to start. You don't need a big budget. Many creators design their first products using simple tools like Canva or PowerPoint. Once the file is ready to be uploaded, it can be sold to unlimited customers. That means you can build something once, and it can continue to make money passively. What you're selling isn't a physical object. It's a document that someone can download and print or use digitally to solve a problem. Because of that, demand tends to be very broad. People always need planners, checklists, worksheets, and often prefer digital printable versions because they're instantly accessible. But there are a few realities to know before you dive in. First, a successful printable business means more than creating something that you think will be a hit. You need to validate demand and check competition before investing time in a design. Betsy tells us she uses tools like eRank and Sales Samurai to research Etsy's search volume, competition, and broader trends, and she only moves forward when the numbers suggest that there's real demand. Her top seller is her Final Wishes Planner. It wouldn't be most people's first guess, but it consistently sells because it makes a difficult task easier for families. That's a useful lesson. Be sure you're solving a meaningful problem. Also, presentation and positioning matter. A printable needs clear design, easy to follow layout, good mock-ups so that the buyer sees what they actually get, and solid listing copy if you're on Etsy or another online store. And like any business you're running, be sure to provide a great customer experience by providing clear information about your products and timely responses to all inquiries. Next up is handmade crafts or art commissions. And this is one where you need to be clear about your goal from the start. There's a real difference between creating something because you love it and creating something with the intention of selling it. Both are valid, but if your goal is income, the marketplace has to love it too. I once knew someone who was extremely skilled at pottery. Technically excellent work, but what she tended to create were pieces that she personally loved, but the market generally didn't. As a result, selling consistently was challenging, not because the work lacked quality, but because there was a disconnect between what she was producing and what the public wanted. If you're creating for personal fulfillment, that's great. But when handmade items or commissions become a side hustle, market demand has to inform what you make to some degree. Handmade side hustles that tend to be easier to monetize often focus on custom or commissioned work, obviously. Functional items people actually use. I recently bought a beautiful handcrafted wooden salt and pepper grinder set at a local craft fair. Gorgeous and functional. Pricing is another critical piece. Many artists and makers underprice their work, either because they're unsure what to charge or because asking for money feels uncomfortable. I had a really insightful conversation with Miriam Schulman about this in episode 170 called Stop Undervaluing Your Work, which looks at how creatives can price their work in a way that's sustainable, accounting for time and expertise and real market value. And one more angle here is an often overlooked path to income, and that's workshops. In episode 107, How to Host Profitable Craft Workshops, I explore how many makers increase income by hosting small group in-person sessions where people pay to learn and create alongside them. For some creatives, workshops become a more predictable and scale income stream than selling finished pieces alone. And Chloe Winstanley describes how she hosted her first workshops with zero cash up front. Whether you incorporate workshops when your business involves handmade crafts or not, it works best when you're clear-eyed about what the market wants and how you can be the one to deliver it. Another home-based side hustle that suits people who prefer the online world is digital marketing consultant. At a practical level, this means that you're getting paid to help businesses understand why their marketing isn't producing results, and then helping them improve specific parts of it. That might involve reviewing a website and identifying why visitors aren't booking calls or making purchases. It could mean rewriting email messages that are getting ignored, helping a business focus on one or two marketing channels instead of spreading themselves thin, or cleaning up messaging that sounds polished but doesn't actually say anything meaningful. In many cases, businesses are already putting in effort. They're posting on social media, sending emails, or paying for a website, but they're guessing. A digital marketing consultant helps remove that guesswork. The skill set required here is not about mastering every platform. You need to understand how the basics of marketing works, clear messaging, calls to action, audience awareness, and to be able to apply that thinking to real-world assets. You need to be able to look at what's already in place, spot what's confusing or ineffective, and suggesting clear practical improvements. Just as importantly, you need to explain those changes in a way that a business owner can understand and act on. And income really varies wildly. Many digital marketing consultants charge anywhere from a few $100s for a one-time audit or strategy review to $1,000 to $3,000 a month for ongoing support on a retainer. Hourly rates, when used, often fall somewhere in that $50 to $150 range, depending on experience and scope. This works well as a side hustle because the scope is manageable. You agree up front on what you're responsible for. You work through it in focus blocks of time, and then either wrap up or continue if it makes sense. There's no inventory, no shipping, and no need to be available at all hours. And everything can be done from home or from wherever you have your laptop. You also don't need a large audience or an online presence to get started. Many digital marketing consultants land their first clients through referrals or through professional relationships or conversations where someone admits they're frustrated with their marketing. What matters most is to be able to articulate clearly who you help and what problems you're good at solving. Businesses are willing to pay for this because clarity saves them time and money and energy. Instead of guessing or chasing the next tactic, they get focused guidance on what to fix and where to put their effort. Could you be that guide? Here's a home-based side hustle for the pet lover: dog walking, pet sitting, or offering pet services from home. No need to open a kennel or run a large operation. At its core, this is about providing care: pet sitting, boarding, dog walking, or in-home visits on a scale that works alongside the rest of your life. What makes this appealing as a side hustle is that many pet owners are actively looking for alternatives to traditional boarding facilities. They want someone local, reliable, and willing to care for their pet in a more personal environment, especially for animals that are anxious or older or don't do well in group settings. A great example of this is Lucy Slater, who I interviewed in episode 73 in a conversation called Paws, Profits, and Tails, Tails, of Pet Sitting. Lucy works full-time as a social media manager, which ties directly back to what we talked about earlier with digital marketing consulting. Her pet sitting business is her side hustle, and she fits it around her existing career. Actually, she often does both at the same time. She has a deep love of pets, but her condo doesn't allow pets, and her boyfriend is allergic. So what she does is dog sit at the dog owner's home. To her, it feels like being on vacation. But when she's on assignment, she's getting paid from two sources at the same time. Her full-time work as a social media manager is remote, so while she's getting paid to look after Fido between walks and feedings and playtime, she's getting paid to work on her laptop for her social media employer. Nice, right? For pet sitting, Lucy charges $90 Canadian a night, and then for a walk, it's $20 for a half an hour. Typical rates for this line of work often range from $20 to $40 per visit and about $40 to $75 US per overnight, with higher rates for multiple pets or special care. Someone taking on a handful of regular clients or a few extended stays each month can realistically earn a few hundred to $1,000 per month as a side income. Lucy uses a platform called rover.com. It's a marketplace that connects pet owners with sitters, boarders, and dog walkers. You build your profile, set your availability, and let the app handle bookings and payments. That means you don't need to build a website or hunt for clients. If you're clear on what pet services you offer, you can get started quickly. The platform handles payments to you, making it a low-friction way to test this side hustle. And they will, of course, be taking a cut of your revenue. From a practical standpoint, you're responsible for someone's pet, which means you need to understand feeding schedules, routines, medications if possible, and behavior considerations. And of course, have experience with animals. Setting boundaries around drop-off times, availability, and the type of pets you'll accept is essential. And be sure to look into insurance requirements. An advantage of this side hustle is the potential repeat business. Once pet owners find someone they trust, they tend to come back, especially for vacations, work trips, or ongoing arrangements. That trust element is what turns this from a one-off gig into something recurring. Marketing is typically very local. So instead of using a platform, some pet sitters find clients directly through neighborhood groups and referrals, even vets and groomers, or even conversations at the dog park. Like all service-based hustles, this one requires reliability. You need a plan for travel and time off or busy stretches so that you're not overcommitting. But for people who genuinely enjoy animals and are good at it and want something that feels tangible and purposeful, this could be a positively lovely side hustle. And last but not least, if you've got good organizational habits and can handle tasks with clarity, being a virtual assistant, a VA, from entry level to executive support is one of the most accessible home-based side hustles there is. It's low overhead, flexible, and you can start small. Yet for the right person, it can also scale into something full-time. At the entry level, VA work often involves support tasks that businesses need but don't have time for. Managing email boxes, schedule meetings, handling customer communications, light research, calendar coordinations, tasks that help a small business or solopreneur stay organized. Because much of this happens online, You can do it from home on a schedule that works around other commitments. Just last week, I interviewed a guest who was located at the other end of the continent, and yet her VA, as it turned out, was in driving distance from me. There's solid guidance on how to start down this path in the episode number 155 with Laura Nicole Jennings, How to Start as a Virtual Assistant. For someone who's organized and comfortable managing details, it's something to check out. But here's where it gets more interesting. You don't have to stay at entry-level VA. If you come from a background with more responsibility, if you've worked in management or have C-suite or leadership experience, you can position yourself to offer much higher level support. In that role, you become more like a remote operations manager or strategic assistant, overseeing projects, helping execute company strategy, managing staff or contractors, and stepping in where leadership bandwidth is thin. That high-level model is what Sandra Booker does, who I interviewed in episode 27, Scaling for Fun and Profit. She shows how what started as VA-style help evolved into more executive-level support for businesses that value long-term strategic assistance, but can't afford to or don't want to hire someone in-house full-time. Sandra's a virtual business manager. That kind of VA work can command higher fees and tends to attract clients who appreciate maturity and trust and consistency over quick task-based gigs. Both levels share the same advantages. No physical inventory, no shipping, no storefront, just a laptop and reliable workflow. As a VA or business manager, you're selling your expertise and experience. And until you actually sit down and look at your work experience and the way you organize your life in general, you may be surprised by how many transferable skills you already have that people will pay you for. You've just heard 10 real remote side hustles that you can run from home. They're practical, doable, and intentionally diverse because no two people have the same combination of time and energy and experience and interests. If something sparked your interest, take the next small step. Revisit the sections that caught your attention. Check out the past episodes I referenced, and let me know what was your favorite. Well, that's a wrap for today. If our chats are sparking your entrepreneurial spirit and providing valuable insights, consider showing your support by visiting sidehustlehero.com/support. That's where you can shoot me a virtual coffee. It's a real thing and a fun way to give the show a caffeinated thumbs up. Thank you so much. In the episode description, you'll find a link to our full show notes, which live at our website, sidehustlehero.com. While there, be sure to grab a copy of my 28-page guide called Smart Start, From Idea to It's Live in 7 Steps, a beginner's guide to launching your side hustle with confidence. It's free for now, but not forever, at sidehustlehero.com.